All right, hello everybody, and welcome to another round of LSR League Racing action. Of course, thank you, for joining. I am your commentator and host today, Vacant Haddock, as we head for round 4 here at definitely one of my favorite circuits on the calendar in general, and that is heading to Suzuka, as already we have an early disconnect. So that's already not great, as we already have our first disconnect of the day. So I'll go ahead and fix this and get Mango back in here. There we go. So hopefully Mango does get to rejoin. But again, welcome to round number 4. Of course, last week at Silverstone, a race that came down to the wire, came down to the final braking zones. It was definitely great to give some commentary over that one. And again, for one of the most iconic circuits in Formula One and in motor racing in general, we head to the effectively figure of 8 Suzuka. Again, downforce is going to be very important here. Overtake's going to be at a premium. It's going to be very important for all of our drivers to really nail this qualifying session. It's going to be all to play for here. Expect pole times down in the low 26s. Expect for a good chunk of this grid. We'll see them drop below that they drop into that 26-second range. Break that barrier of 27 flat. So it should be interesting to keep an eye on, as we do have Mango rejoining, luckily, as Luke has joined as well. You may see a couple of other drivers join, but I believe that it is going to be an 18-car grid for today, which again should make the circuit a little bit easier, particularly in qualifying. But take a look here, as Zezin Domar going to be getting underway here with the opening quali lap of this single session. So we'll stay on board with the Alpine as he makes his way around the circuit for the opening lap here, and stay on board, kind of give the run through. Of course, best overtaking spot is this run here down into turn 1, but it gets very tight once you get into that braking zone. You're really not going to battle, especially on lap 1. You can see a couple of cars get spun around there, and then, of course, into this famous S's section here. Of course, going to be putting all sorts of load into the tires, really just trying to carry as much speed as possible. You're going to see a lot of these drivers not really even use that much brake through there. It's just going to be downshift and a lot of engine braking. Up the hill, through turn 7, very long. Left-hander's got to kind of keep it in there, and into the 2 Degner corners. Again, very sketchy. You're going to have to be super, super brave through both those corners, especially with the curves on the outside, with how low some of these drivers are running. Slowest corner on the circuit is this hairpin, and traction coming out of that, very important and very easy to get wrong, especially after you've been loading those tires up so much through the opening half of the lap. And then from here, very high speed through the rest of the lap. Of course, you got Spoon, where you're going to slow down a little bit, but again, it's carrying as much speed as possible, focusing on that exit. No DRS here, down for the run into 130R. But again, going to be flat the whole way down into that final chicane. And of course, you're going to have to really attack this final chicane as well to get all the lap time possible. Really try and get up on both of those curbs, kind of really cut across them on the exit to make it as straight as possible to the line. Keep it nice and tight as you come out of that corner. And it's going to be a 27.4 from Zezin Damar. That is a great banker lap time on LSR Group 1 debut for the Alpine. It's definitely going to be interesting to see how his session continues. We'll then jump to Cam Ruddy, making his way through the final couple of corners. Mercedes will come to line 27.771 from Ruddy, so he will not go faster. So not an improvement there. Soa on an outlap. There's a LSR F1 returner, Vanzantino, meanwhile making his way through. You got one of the Ferraris making their way around, as well as they come to line. I think that's Anthrax Robin, who's going to go fastest of everybody right now, 27.112 with his first effort of the session. Got some McLarens out there. I believe that is Hog Rider up ahead of Vanzantino here, who will stay on board with that green machine. Again, working his way out of the final couple of corners. Again, got to keep it really tight. Red light flashing in the back means he's burned a lot of ERS. That's only a 27.963 for Vanzantino. So not a great first lap there. And of course, with how tight this circuit is, very, very easy to just dip a wheel into the grass, dip a wheel too much over a curb, and just lose a lot more lap time than you might be expecting. The other Aston Martin, meanwhile, of McT is just starting a lap. Jump on board, though, with Lurka, who we've seen generally up towards the top of the field. I believe, again, if memory serves, fell back a little bit at last weekend's British Grand Prix, but coming into the chicane here, and actually going to keep that lap. It looked briefly from that camera angle like that lap time may be lost, but keeping all four wheels on track. And a 26.609 from Lurka, that is a monstrous lap from the Williams driver for a first effort, as he goes well to the top of the field. As that is a incredible banker lap. And just to kind of give you a little bit of a point of reference, I believe last season's pole time at this same circuit was a 26.4 as Soa goes third fastest. Nemi, meanwhile, slotted into fourth, just as we were looking through some of those first exchanges of laps. That's Hog Rider, fifth fastest. Beatom, meanwhile, making his way through the opening sector. Of course, is still your championship leader. We'll see what happens here for him. Of course, there's definitely going to be a question as well as to how much do you want to attack here in qualifying, as I believe that's McT going third fastest. It was, so McT up into the top three and just a shade behind Robin. But as I was saying, going to be very important to consider how much do you want to attack here in qualifying. Very, that downforce will treat you well here, as it'll let you pick up enough speed with the amount of energy that you can put out in this year's game, considering that you can use a lot of overtake. A lot of that overtake button in qualifying. That straight line speed may not be quite as much of a factor as Beatom through the final chicane. He'll come around the final corner into the line. Of course, a very tight, very solid exit there, but only a 27.146 from Beatom. So unable to really get anywhere close to that storming lap time from Lurka. So I believe Mango is really the lone driver out on a competitive lap at the moment. Did show up as purple through two sectors. Of course, the Ferrari driver sending that red machine through this final complex. He'll keep it nice and tight to the line, and it's 26.503, so Mango goes even better. So Mango and Lurka battling away for pole up at the top, and we've seen Mango have so much qualifying pace over the course of the season. And of course, with him being a bit disadvantaged as one of our few controller players up here in the top tier, going to be very interesting to see if, can he potentially do a nice job, get himself the clean air. Can that give Mango a chance to just lead from the front and potentially just pull away? We'll have to keep an eye on that. Charisma and former Kitten's in the wall in the Haas. As I think just try to carry a little bit too much speed out of Degner too. Just kind of got on that curb on the outside. Ended up putting that car around and in the wall. Did a nice job to hold it. And yeah, those rear tires absolutely cooked as he tries to get on the power there. So he'll get that Haas recovered and make his way back around the pits, hopefully not holding up Charisma too much in the Red Bull. There's a number of drivers all out on track to start their second go of things. It's very wide there through Spoon. Goes Charisma. 111.8 or 111.7 through two sectors, so certainly not going to be the greatest lap time for the Red Bull. We'll come into the braking zone. That's a Ferrari jumping the chicane there. And just, really just missing the braking point. Charisma only going to get a 29.2. We saw a big mistake. Big twitch through Spoon. We'll jump to Jordan 2 Wavy then. See where he's at as he crosses that second sector time marker. Certainly quicker than Charisma was. Can he carry that through into this final sector? Again, final sector, very simple. It's just this final chicane. And then powering to the line. going to be very interesting to see. Where Jordan lines up, it's going to be 15th for the moment. 28.543 from him. So again, got a ton of drivers out going for second laps. It's like B-Tom maybe out on a second push lap already. We'll see where he's at as he crosses that second sector timing marker. And he's up almost 2/10 through 2 sectors. So B-Tom on a very nice lap here as he makes his way into the final chicane. Again, we know B-Tom's racecraft, but just attacks that final chicane that little bit too aggressively. So he'll jump the track there. We've been at 26.987, so it would have been our third driver into the 26, and I imagine more comfortably than that had he kind of attacked that final corner. But for now, he'll have to sit in P5. Anthrax Robin not on the push lap for the moment. Right in fifth. Again, apologies. I don't know why I'm yawning so much, but say Levy. Nemi, meanwhile, making his way through Sector 1 as he gets up the hill through Turn 7. Again, beautiful to see the car work up through there. And Nemi's up almost 5/10. Going to run very wide there through the Degners and going to end up in the gravel. So Nemildo with a ton of pace there, but just unable to gather it up. Of course, definitely going to have to recover that car without getting disqualified here. And he will. He'll do a nice job staying out of the way as well. But unable to quite get that done. But Nemi showing a lot of pace. Even if it's just through Sector 1. We'll jump to Lurka here, making his way through Spoon. See if the Williams can find any time to gain. Of course, he'll push on. Again, it's Mango and Lurka well clear of the rest of the field, and Lurka's up over a 10th with just one braking zone left to go. So Williams maybe just about to steal provisional pole right back now as he makes his way through the final chicane. He'll keep it super tight to the line, and where will Lurka go? He will not. He'll lose time at the final corner. So after the second go of things, Mango, for the moment, will still have provisional pole. Anthrax Robin up only about a 10th, and he won't improve. MacT's about matched his time. He's up a 10th through 2 sectors. So MacT almost certainly not going to challenge for provisional pole. And so Mango can put himself in a very interesting position here with about 5.5 minutes left to go. We will get one more as MacT goes third quickest. So slots himself up to be the third driver into the 26s. It's a solid lap time from MacT. Again, a number of drivers also on laps. Mudev making his way through 2 sectors, but does seem to be out of fuel. BXT as well seems to be running a little bit low on energy here as he makes his way around the backside of the circuit. So it doesn't seem like he will improve. Jordan will get up, I believe, to 27.9. That is an improvement there. Yes, so that is an improvement up to 27.9, but still 14th for the moment for Jordan to Wavy. Mango then, with an opportunity to extend his provisional pole advantage, is going to be losing time here, so almost certainly not going to be picking up anything here, is the Ferrari man. So I imagine he will be pulling this into the pit lane here. And it'll all come down to those final laps. So there's definitely, again, as of right now, definitely seems to be Mango versus Lurka for that pole position. But there's definitely a couple of other drivers that have a shot. I think, B-Tom wasn't great on that first go, maybe trying to give himself a little bit extra time, maybe just trying to get an extra lap in, trying to get more comfortable with a setup. Again, just with how technically challenging Suzuka is. Again, Suzuka is very unforgiving. You make one slight mistake and you're immediately going off the circuit. So that's going to be something to really, really keep an eye on. As the session continues, as Goldley will actually disconnect here. Disappointingly, apologies. As we might be losing one more as well. As Zezin Damar has retired and left, so I'm not sure. Apparently we are going to lose 2 guys here. That's disappointing from the Alpine that was looking very strong early. So 3 minutes left to go. I'm not sure what happened here. You can hear a number of drivers looking to get their final lap started. B-Tom, though, is underway with what will be his final lap of the session. So B-Tom will make his way through the S's. So we'll see, can B-Tom potentially take a stab at provisional pole here? 2.5 minutes left to go here in qualifying. Through Sector 1, B-Tom only picking up about a 10th. Again, not super comfortable through Degner 1, but Degner 2, very smooth, so he'll pick up some time there on the exit for sure. Just into the hairpin. How would B-Tom treat this exit? Of course, you really got to pin that throttle. Of course, really pin that overtake button as well to find all of the speed that you can. As into Spoon we go. Of course, you're going to, again, really want to only dab on the brakes. Really, don't attack that inside curb too much, and then get on the power as you head down into 130R. Zroski checking in. 2 minutes left to go in the session, and B-Tom up 3.5 tenths. So B-Tom looking to put a very respectable lap time on the board, not fighting for provisional pole as it stands. Can he pull out any magic here at the final chicane? Power down now and to the line. B-Tom with his final lap of the session will go third quickest, 26.611. Certainly a very respectable lap there from the V-Carb driver, but how will it hold up to all the rest of the lap times about to come? As, again, so many drivers, I got, 16 drivers out prepping their laps as of this moment, including the 2 drivers that sit ahead of B-Tom in Mango and Lurka. But the one getting us underway with these final laps first will be Hogrider. You can see the Red Bull in the background is Nemi. We're actually going to keep an eye on for this lap. We saw him pick up so much time through Sector 1 on his previous lap before making a mistake at the Degners. So Nemi is going to be very much a driver to watch as this session starts to come to a close. Lurka underway with his lap. Mac T underway with his lap. As again, numerous drivers all getting started with final laps of the session. Nemi, 4 tenths up through Sector 1, carries it very cleanly through both Degners. This time, not going to be pointing the wrong way. Now, how much speed can he carry through the rest of the lap? Into the hairpin we go. Bit of a lockup there on the inside, but gathers it up very nicely, able to pin the throttle very effectively and get a very clean exit. Keep an eye on that Aston behind him, who I believe would be Mac T. All drivers as well have now, with the exception of Kendricks, have now all started their final laps of the session, and these will be the final laps for all of the drivers. Of course, again, a Hogrider just ahead of Nemi here. And again, Aston not too far behind. B-Tom staying out of the way of everybody as he is now out of fuel. But Nemi well up through 2 sectors now. Keep an eye on Hogrider on the timing tower to your left as we make our way now through the final couple of corners. Hogrider goes 5th quickest. Nemi, who's had a lot of pace on this final lap, where will he slot in? He'll only slot into 4th, so up half a second, but still a great lap there. Vanzantino goes 9th fastest. I believe that's Lurka coming in line now. Can Lurka steal away provisional pole? He can. 26.456. Lurka finds half a 10th. Can Mango do anything about it? He found the 10th in that first sector. B-Tom will dive in the pits. Mac T will not improve. And Anthrax Robin not too far behind Mango either. BXT Burnett, 9th fastest. The Hassasoa jumping up into 6th. That's a good lap from him. Mango up a 10th and a half now as he makes his way into the final couple of corners. Going to be a little bit of traffic up ahead as we got a couple of retirements from the session here. Mango through the final corner, not distracted enough by that Haas, and it is going to be Mango on pole position. Unless his teammate can do anything about it, he cannot. It'll be the Ferrari in 6th, and then just waiting for Kendricks then to make his way through the final couple of corners and to the line. But it's Mango on pole here in Suzuka. That's a great result for the South African. That's by a pretty comfortable margin as well. But, got the top 8 separated by only 0.6 of a second, so very tight for that chunk of drivers. And look at how, and even further down the field, 9th to 14th, separated by 0.2. Of course, Cam Reddy, Kendricks, Charisma, all certainly very tight as well. We saw Haas, former Kitten, crash on the run to the line as well. But of course, we will have a quick break. One sec. But of course, we'll have now a brief break on the grid before getting underway. Now, Suzuka is going to be very interesting, as I think based on the kind of strategy info that I have, this could be a definite split between a one-stop and a two-stop race. I've seen some medium to hard, or you really slop off the mediums rather early in the stint. Really don't wear them out too much before making a swap over to the hards. I've also seen soft, medium, soft as a potential strategy option. Of course, with Suzuka, definitely can make it where a lot of people can be prone to mistakes as tires continue to wear. But the interesting thing will be, when do you attempt to pull that undercut? Do you think tire wear will be high enough here? Whereas that two-stop, I think another thing to consider is I haven't gotten a weather report from anybody as of yet. So it'll definitely be interesting to keep an eye out, see if we get any change of conditions. Of course, the sky looking pretty bright as of right now. So it looks like it should be okay for the moment. Again, going to be really interesting to see there. Safety cars definitely could be playing a factor in this race. Zudi, unfortunately, joining just a little bit too late to be able to take part. About 30 seconds left now, so we'll give the ready-up command in a few moments here. And we'll go ahead and give it. All right, so the ready-up command has been given. So about 30 seconds before we'll get underway here. Again, will be very interesting. That run down to turn one, very important. Also gets very tight very quickly. So get underway here. But Mango doing a nice job, already picking up that point for pole position that we do have here. But from here on out, it is standard points. We do retain fast lap as well. Kendricks is not last, he's 17th. But we are on the grid, ready to go. 3, 4, and 5 lights. Long hold, and now we're finally underway from Suzuka and seem to potentially catch a couple of people out. A bunch of people struggling to get underway, including the McLaren, as this McLaren and Sauber in the background make contact. Lurka trying to go to the inside of Mango, but Mango holds on to the lead into turn one, takes advantage, and now has a chance to try and start to pull off. And everybody seemingly through the first couple of corners okay, but again, massive damage to Kendricks' car as we make our way through the opening lap. Most of the field remaining pretty tight here as we scan through the field. Of course, got a couple of cars in AI as Goatley and Zenzin unable to stick around. Mudev as well with an incident. Yellow flags there. That's for Charisma, who's gotten caught up in an incident. Make our way to the hairpin. Big lockup for Mango as we got a car looking to the inside. It's the Mercedes of, I believe that was BXT, looking to go to the inside of Jordan. And Charisma's incident as well is going to bring out a virtual safety car here. So it's going to neuter racing for just a moment. And there is some of your predicted strategies, specifically for your leader. Go ahead and throw on the tire choice so we can see the choices for everyone. It's mediums for the top four as it stands. In Robin and Acti going hard tires, as with our Muncher, Cam Ruddy, Kitten, and Zezin. And of course, that's Kendricks looking at that soft tire. Could we be potentially seeing an extended hard stint for Kendricks in this one, trying to get that undercut done, trying to see how powerful that is, and just trying to keep everybody in dirty air behind. Again, certainly lots of questions to ask. Again, still under virtual safety car for the moment. So I imagine we'll be looking to get underway here before too long. And it's going to be a couple of drive-through penalties. I think it's Mudev and Charisma both picking up drive-throughs there. It's actually going to be Charisma 10 seconds for speeding. He's going to retire. So a couple of mistakes there early will make a massive, massive difference. So Charisma is now out. Kendricks boxing early for the mediums. Of course, did have that major, major front wing damage. As he really just struggled to get off the line. But we'll carry on with racing now. And another lockup there from Mango. Does seem to be a little bit jumpy. Mac T, meanwhile, has started to fall off the back a little bit, potentially struggling to get those hards working. As now he's starting to be hounded a bit by Hog Rider. Only 3/10 back, and of course that gap up ahead to Robin starting to extend a little bit. So Mac T, we'll see if he can pull up any sort of the gap there. Let's see, is it a bit of ERS management? It's not really even ERS management from this view of things. I think it's a mix, I think compared to Hog Rider behind, certainly has, I think, Mac T has a comfortable amount of more top speed here, as Mango's also opened that gap to over a second. We'll pick up that fast lap. DRS will be activated, so we will have a battle for P6 here as DRS open on the rear wing of that McLaren. Of course, the one DRS zone on the circuit going to give a bit of a squeeze as Mac T, but Hog Rider still with enough speed to go around the outside at the opening corner and gets up a position. There is Mudev out of this race as well, going in to serve that drive-through. We'll pick up a penalty as well. So Mango up to about 1.6 second advantage now. So he'll look to try and pull away with some of that clean air. Lurka maybe trying to drop back a little bit, trying to hold on to some ERS, maybe trying to get some clean air of his own there in order to best hold on to that medium compound tire. Of course, I'd imagine Lurka kind of planning for a one-stop if the pace he's showing is anything to go off of. So Mac T kind of continuing to struggle there in 7th. It's really the, big tire difference battle for the moment is between the Aston Martin and the cars around him. It's now Jordan putting the pressure on. Again, it's the same situation where that car in front is just inching away a little bit, except this time, instead of Robin, it's Hog Rider that's managed to pull away a little bit. Well, again, stick with this battle, and Jordan actually going to go around the outside at 130R. So again, Mac T just struggling here. Doesn't look to be any damage on the Aston Martin either, as Hog Rider actually picks up a new fast lap of the race. Mac T just kind of starting to continue to fall here. Going to try and go defensive, as BXT going to try to look around the outside, but not quite going to be close enough to send it. Mac T as well going to close that door firmly. So we'll carry on racing here on lap number 4. Also, let's just take a quick look at, not the leader, actually it's the detail, apologies, where we can take a look at some of the position changes. Top 4 unchanged through the opening laps, but it's been Mac T, has been the story of kind of, I guess, struggles of the opening part of this race. He's dropped 3 spots, potentially more, if the kind of pace continues, though he does seem to be a bit closer to Jordan than he was to Hog Rider, who really started to pull away. Yellow flag in Sector 2. That was for Cam Ruddy, I believe, and Muncher potentially who came together. So I think certainly disappointing there. Jordan, meanwhile, has had a great race. He's up 4 spots, so that's been it's been great running so far from him. Again, tight racing is certainly, as apologies, just hit my mic. Tight racing certainly a challenge here at Suzuka. Again, just because of how wide these cars are, how tight the circuit is. In comparison, just how technically demanding the circuit is. Of course, Sector 3 can really set up some interesting battles. We'll see how that continues. Lap 5 here, and Mango's led from the off, but that gap's starting to come down now. Lurker down back within a second of the Ferrari in the lead as Cam Ruddy going to dive into the pits here, and now Cam Ruddy will retire. So numerous retirements here at the in the early laps of this Japanese Grand Prix. That was after losing 2 drivers in qualifying. Cam Ruddy is now out. Yeah, it's really this top 4. You got Anthrax Robin keeping pace, so the Ferrari's running very nicely in 1st and 5th. Jordan really just not keeping pace with the in front, and now there's another retirement in former Kitten. So a ton of retirements here. As there is now former Kitten out of the Japanese Grand Prix. Again, Mango still leads. Jordan's starting to maybe be put under a little bit of pressure now. Has he potentially run out of a little bit of steam here? After using potentially a lot of ERS to try and jump up the field quickly. Potentially losing some of that pace compared to Hog Rider. Or is Hog Rider just that quick in that clean air where he's able to kind of, not necessarily draw in with this lead group of 5, but you can still see the McLaren lurking there in the background as a potential challenger towards the front of the field. But it is lap number 6. Mac T as well, able to get past Jordan into turn 1 as he'll go around the outside. Using that move that we saw Hog Rider lay on him in the early stages of this race. The hards potentially starting to come alive for the Aston Martin. So is he now going to be in a position, and by extension, could Anthrax Robin be in a position where they can start making moves up the field? It's a gap from Mango back to Lurker, continuing to come down again. Looks to be another big lockup there from Mango. Into the hairpin. And Lurker's just kind of kept closing lap after lap here. Lap number 6, and I imagine it's not going to be much longer for Mango to hold on to this race lead. Again, controller this year just puts so much wear on those tires that it's very difficult on race pace to hold some of these cars behind. But if you're going to do it, Suzuka is certainly a good place to give that a go, because of really the only, there's really only the one good overtaking spot on this circuit. Yeah, and again, you just have to be so precise to be able to give yourself that opportunity. But Lurker, within half a second, they're going to blast down into turn 1 here. Lurker with the first attempt at DRS in quite a while. Not going to get very close. So Mango will hold on for at least one more lap here as we start lap number 7. Mac Team, meanwhile, still doing a nice job holding off Jordan. And again, Hog Rider's just kind of in a nice little window here. As I think, again, he's having a very nice race there in 6th for McLaren. So, again, there's just so many drivers to keep an eye on as we go through the Degners. Look to be a little bit of a wiggle from Nemi there. Yeah, as you can see, the Red Bull starting to potentially move around a little bit there. I think that Nemi is going to be an interesting driver to keep an eye on, because if anybody's going to pit early, I'd imagine it's going to be the Red Bull, who's in, you got 4 cars within a second and a half of each other, 5 within 2 seconds. So realistically, it's going to be the furthest back on that medium compounded tire that you're going to want to keep an eye on to potentially dive into those pits in the early stages. I know based on some of the strategy that I was had kind of pre-race, 9 to 11 was a projected potential window to be able to one-stop the medium compound of tire. So again, certainly an interesting question there of how much do you weigh that undercut versus tire life as this race continues. And I think if you're on the 2-stop, you're thinking completely differently. You're thinking to stop around that time as well, potentially looking to go on the mediums, 10 laps on the mediums, and then potentially 8 laps on the softs with low fuel to potentially end out this race. Meanwhile, Mango still doing a nice job holding on to that lead, defending very well from Lurka behind. And again, I think there's definitely frustrations there where, as much of a joy as it is to drive Suzuka, especially with the way the cars drive on this game, certainly it's very difficult to find a way through at any point around this circuit. even with DRS activated. With Jordan and BXT starting to battle a little bit, is potentially swapping positions there. Look to be swapping positions through the deck. There's a bit of lockup there from the Racing Bull. But he'll gather that up and continue on his way. Yeah, since those opening laps, the race has definitely started to stretch out a little bit, started to fall into a little bit more of a, I guess, a little bit more consistency. Definitely struggled to find the words a little bit there, but we found them eventually. But Mango doing a nice job. B-Tom is now starting to put a little bit of pressure on Lurka. And again, it's this chicane that's a really big difference. As Lurka goes in pretty deep there into that final chicane. I think just missed the breaking point. And maybe that's what some of it's going on as well. Lurka potentially wanting to carry a little bit more speed, attack a little bit more through that final chicane. Mango comfortable to really, take it a little bit slower, not attack the entry quite as aggressively as actually Mango going a little bit wide there. And you can see this lead Ferrari starting to wiggle around a little bit. But Mango, potentially using that a little bit defensively where, hey, I'm just going to focus on getting the exit of that final chicane to as perfect as I can get, because that's going to be the corner that matters. It's not really the braking in that's going to matter. It's very hard to get side by side for that final chicane. It's a lot easier, especially when you're in the lead, to say, hey, I'm going to take my line. You're going to have to find a way to get it done, whether it's, you got to back off a little bit in the run into that chicane before really trying to push the issue into turn one, using a lot of that ERS to try and get it done that way. That's going to be something we have to keep an eye on. Lap 9 of 27. Again, a bit of a 5-car train going for the lead. Mac T has started to open up those hard compound tires, though, so keep an eye on him to potentially start to climb forward. Hog Rider still keeping a comfortable distance to the cars in front, though they're starting to pull away a little bit. And yeah, I think that is what we're seeing, is Lurka will take just a different line to that final chicane, but he can't with Mango in the way. Why don't you show the driver telemetry? I can do that. A lot of it for me is just kind of I guess for me, it's more of an aesthetic thing. I feel like the screen looks better when I'm doing commentary when I don't have the telemetry on screen. But we'll throw it on screen for a bit as we check through ERS. I think Mango being very aggressive with some of that usage as well as Lurka. Up near 60%. Vancentino into the pits early. And he's going for hard. So Vancentino looking at potentially taking a hard compound tire to the end. B-Tom, meanwhile, has held on to a lot of ERS. He's up in the 80s. So is Nemi. I think Robin has had to expend a little bit more ERS considering those hard compound tires. In fact, I think he's trying to make it work out to potentially jump up the order as Robin getting a little bit close there. And of course, Hog Rider a bit further back, trying to use some of the ERS to catch the cars ahead, but he's run a bit low. Hasn't really been in a train to utilize other cars quite so much. Mac T only at 30% as well. BXT using a lot in defense. So meanwhile, at a very respectable 60%. So we'll keep an eye on the Haas to potentially expend some extra power as we get into this pit stop phase. But I don't know. I feel like this. Looks a little bit cleaner. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. As well as hiding the UI down there. Mango going to dive into the pits here on lap number 10. Of course, a bit of a tricky pit lane. A number of cars going to follow him as well. B-Tom and Nemi going to dive into the pits. So we got 3 cars diving in early. B-Tom will swap to the hard compound tire. Here comes Nemi in. He's going to go to the hard. Mango will go to the hard tire as well. So all 3 drivers will be released and into some nice clean air. Also pitting is Soa. But we're about to see how valuable that potential undercut is. Lurka, meanwhile, now has some clean air with those medium compound tires. Of course, Anthrax Robin will certainly be out for a number of extra laps. We'll have to see here as Robin losing a bit, picking up a bit of wheel spin there. But again, lap number 11, seeing our first couple of stops here. Mango coming out in 8th, but B-Tom still close behind. But again, with how much ERS we kind of saw Mango had used up in comparison to B-Tom. We'll have to see what happens here. So I think the question now is going to be, will Lurka dive into the pits? Of course, Robin will have the DRS advantage. B-Tom and Mango battle in the way, so we'll... actually, no, that's lag. Excuse me. Lurka will stay out here. Hog Rider will dive into the pits. And he will not get it stopped. That's a 10-second penalty for the McLaren. BXT will not get it stopped. Did Jordan pick up a penalty there? I don't believe he did. So Jordan doing a nice job getting it stopped as well for VCARB. So Mango now closing in here on the Alpine of Muncher. So that certainly won't be great. We can already see there's a massive advantage. Or actually, no, yeah, there is a massive advantage on that undercut. As, Mango already picked it, I think that's over a second? Actually, sorry, I think that is about a second on that one lap. Is that undercut over one lap? But I think the big thing to keep an eye on will be the impact of Muncher in the Alpine here. So I think Muncher's Alpine is going to be a big roadblock here for Mango potentially trying to make more of those fresh hard compound tires. As into the hairpin we go. Mango looking a little bit wily, but immediately all over the back of this Alpine. As they appear here, I imagine Mango going to try to get this done early. It's going to be defensive from Muncher, as he's not going to make it easy for him. Lurka, meanwhile, will dive in the pits here on lap number 12, so it's business time for Mango, who does get that move done. Puts a nice little buffer between him and B-Tom for the time being, but will mean the car behind will have DRS. B-Tom going to go to the inside of 1, maybe was looking to make it 2. But B-Tom gets that move done, and now he'll have DRS. Mango will not. So we'll head down into turn number 1. Where will Lurka appear as well? Here comes B-Tom. Going to go look around the outside. And into turn 1, it's going to be B-Tom taking the net lead of this race. Meanwhile, Nemi in the background gets squeezed out by Muncher. Lurka comes out not too far behind. But the Alpine starting to play a bit of spoiler in this race. As I think, Muncher holding his pack up, so Lurka can potentially start to close in. Nemi's going to start to fall off. Mango now has to deal with dirty air as well, because B-Tom was able to get behind him with DRS on a beautiful run down into turn 1. So that gives the VCARB an extra position now. And of course, Mango going to be low on ERS because he had to use it to get around the Alpine. Bit wide there from Muncher now, and so we're going to see a bit of a drag race there on the exit, but it's good work from the Alpine to be able to keep him behind, as Muncher wanting to race, as he's entitled to do. Into Spoon we go, and there looks to be a little bit of contact there, and the Alpine going to get forced off. Muncher actually going to pick up 3 seconds there. So Nemi and Muncher going at it, and Nemi finally makes his way through, and I imagine this will be easy pickings for Lurka. Only a second back now, as there's the Williams looking to the outside. And he might get it done. Mango, meanwhile, has done a great job closing up to B-Tom. Trying to get that exit perfect now. So for the first time in this race, it's Mango trailing. Mango with DRS. Mango looking to the outside, and Mango will retake the net lead as we start lap 14 here. Lurka as well able to dispatch Muncher. And you see the Williams there in the background as we cross the halfway point of this race. So Matt T and Robin still fairly comfortably out in front. Let's take a quick look at ERS. Mango starting to pick a little bit back up. He's about 40%. B-Tom still with about a 20% battery advantage over the Red Bull. Nemi, meanwhile, has closed up now that he's picked up some clean air. Sure, it's Vacant Tadic doing the commentary here. Again, lap 14 to 27. So we're still waiting to see exactly how some of this goes down. Of course, Robin and Mac T still yet to pit, as is Muncher. So still plenty of time to play in this race. again, the big battle is going to be this 4-car fight. Anthrax Robin, 3 seconds, 4 track limits. For us, I hope, because that will give me a better opportunity at potentially winning tomorrow in Group 2, which if you are new to LSR, of course, we got 4 groups of Formula 1 action. And of course, and as well, we have a group of Le Mans Ultimate action, if that is something that you are potentially interested in. And of course, all the F1 groups do have the same race calendar, but of course, different pace. We try to get everything spread out based on pace. Mango as well, holding the lead here as Jordan and BXT battle. That's going to be Jordan around the outside of turn 1, doing a nice job there. Sola all over the back of BXT now as well. There's a 4-car fight going on for what is right now 9th and 10th. No, Zrosky, that's just because you yap a lot. I didn't see the whole text message, but... but anyway, Mango, again, doing a nice job at holding cars behind. Yellow flag! That's Robin round! That's Robin round at Spoon! Robin has lost the car at Spoon, and he looked to be in the wall there. Is there damage to the Ferrari? As what happened there from MacT? Or from Anthrax Robin? So a big mistake there, as potentially just getting up on the curbs on worn tires will send Robin round. And you can see those rear tires are absolutely baking now, and Robin's going to speed into the pits here and retire after that, which is, a bit of a rage quit there that will allow Mango to re-inherit the lead of this race here on lap number 16. But still, lots left to go. Yeah, Anthrax Robin out of this race now. So certainly disappointing to see, as Robin was having a great race up to that point. But certainly unfortunate there. Yeah, I mean, again, I think a moment. Sometimes it's frustrating where you're, everything's going well, and just have that one little dumb mistake, and it's there may have been some rear wing damage. Ultimately, I can't tell because we don't have access to a damage view and spectator, and nothing appeared to be super damaged. But also at this level, sometimes it's just, hey, I made that mistake. I'm on for a really good result. I screwed it up. There's no point in continuing, even if it's for a couple of points, is sometimes the mentality, which you can certainly agree or disagree with, but I certainly think that's some of the mentality that exists. But we'll carry on racing here. It's going to be 11 laps left to go this time across the line. And Mango has led, has not led every one of those laps, but he's effectively led all of those laps, considering that he was among the first first trio for green flag pit stops. Of course, was overtaken briefly by B-Tom as Muncher finally dives into the pits. So I imagine it'll be medium tires on his car. We'll have to keep an eye on MacT as well. MacT's in a really interesting spot there in 9th. Of course, just ahead of his teammate, but importantly, on fresh medium tires. We'll see if he can take advantage, potentially jump ahead of Jordan and put himself in an interesting position. So again, currently sits in 9th. Again, will that little bit of extra grip allow him to stay close enough to kind of take advantage of some of the mistakes that could potentially arise on that hard compounded tire. Potentially pick up a couple of extra points. You see Soa starting to slither around a little bit. Again, 17 of 27 now, as Mango making his way through Spoon. And holding off B-Tom, no small feat. Nemi and Lurka still there in the background, looking to potentially have a say in this as well. Lurka, of course, with the freshest tires of the bunch. So depending on how much tires are wearing, stay with this battle for a bit, see if we can't see any of the tire wear graphics pop up. But I imagine it's going to be fairly close. Mango going to go defensive once again. This is one of the better runs that we've seen from a car behind. With B-Tom closing, he's going to have to, but he's just going to back off here. So 10 laps to go on. Mango still holds on to that race lead. Jordan and BXT, meanwhile, will battle into turn 1. There's Mac T looking to finish this move off on Soa, but Soa looking to go around the outside, and Soa will hold on. Mac T, though, going to try to get it back up the inside. And will Mac T get that move done? That's a brilliant move back up the inside from Mac T at turn 1. And so there's one driver dispatched by the Aston Martin. Now we'll see if he can get BXT. So just 2 in front of him for the chance to go chasing after potentially Hog Rider or more, depending on just how much pace Mac T has in the Aston Martin. Of course, don't want to wear out those tires too quickly, but a very nice move there at the opening corner of the racetrack. Go ahead and throw up telemetry again here for a moment, just to get an idea of battery power in each of the cars. B-Tom's sitting at about 60%, and Mango with the advantage now. He's at about 70, and so that might be some of the reason that we're seeing Mango continue to eke out some of these advantages, is managing that ERS super well in the early parts of the lap. Nemi at 50%, Lurka at 60%. B-Tom's all the way down at 33 there, and is dropping into reduced harvesting in points. So Mango potentially is starting to struggle a little bit. He will have overtake here within 4.5 tenths. Again, how much overspeed can you have? And now he's just going to kind of run out of ERS here. Mango's still using a good bit. Nemi burned a good bit of ERS there. He's down to the 20s. And then Lurka, I think, just kind of trying to bide his time, similar to his namesake. Just trying to lurk there in the background, see if he can't get any moves done. We got Mac T now trying to get a similar move up the inside on BXT. They're going to be side-by-side through the S's, but Mac T unable to get that move stuck in there. So the Aston Martin will have to settle for staring at the CrowdStrike logo on the back of that Mercedes rear wing for the moment. Lurka, meanwhile, closing a little bit on Nemi, trying to potentially just move around in his mirrors a little bit, put him off, try and jump up into third. Because of all these drivers here, Lurka's the one with the most resources at his disposal. With about 8 laps left to go. He's going to, again, just take a look to the inside there. But that gap not quite going to open up. Not worth the risk. But it's Will there as Nemi runs wide there through Spoon. As I think Lurka did manage to put the Red Bull off. It's going to be a drag race now down into 130R. Who has more straight line speed? Is it the Red Bull or the Williams? Williams moving a little bit aggressively there in defense. But it looks like it will be Lurka holding on. We got Nemi, again, just looking to bounce out there, trying to do the same movement that we saw Lurka do to him. And that gap at the front as well, going to start to open up a little bit. Will still be DRS advantage for Lurka. And, of course, Dirty Air will give him an opportunity to close up to Mango and B-Tom. Again, that opens up that fact just a little bit with 8 laps left to go. So still all to play for, but Lurka now starting to make some moves here as the tires continue to wear here at Suzuka. And you can see Mango really attacking that curbing on the inside. Again, you know, I feel like one to avoid going out to that curbing on the left-hand side of Degner 2, if at all possible. Another big, at least visual lock up there. So I'm starting to, Suzuka races typically, generally aren't super titillating. Yes, that is a word. Go look it up. Use a dictionary. As Mac T this time finds, looking to try and sign it on BXT Burnett. I think trying to make it potentially 2 drivers in as many corners. But Mac T now up into 7th, and he's got a potential to get a move done here on Jordan before too long. But BXT certainly still wants to do something about it. Here comes BXT down the inside. As they go through 130R, it's going to have to be the Mercedes that backs out on that tighter line. So Mac T still with an advantage here. So we'll head out onto the pit straight, and once again, up 21 of 27. Rear wing opened up on Mac T's car. Does he have the ERS to potentially get a move done? No, he'll hold off for the moment. Will he try to get it done? with downforce here. Again, keep that Aston Martin very dialed in, under braking through the corners, able to keep it very neat, very tidy, very tight. But unable to get it done there on Jordan. So we'll see. Definitely keep an eye again. And then Aston Martin to continue to climb through the order. 4/10 now remains the advantage for Mango. Back to B-Tom. Again, Lurker, I think, just potentially trying to chip away at that gap, at some of that armor of the drivers ahead of him. So I don't think we do have this spring reskin for Suzuka. So perhaps the browner weather a little bit more accurate for Suzuka at this time of year, even if the weather itself is rather bright. Mango still with an advantage here, about 4/10 remains that advantage. Again, slightly better exit for Mango. B-Tom going to get a nice run out of that final corner. Mango, again, keeps it very, very tight, just trying to shorten that run down into the first corner. B-Tom closing within 2/10. Going to maybe look to go to the inside late, but unable to do anything with it. We'll jump back to that battle for 6th, as will Mac T this time have enough to get after it, as here comes Mac T, going to be looking to the outside here on the V-carb, and it's the Aston Martin sweeping around the outside, and Jordan unable to carry enough speed through to see what we saw Mac T do a few laps ago. So Mac T will be up into 6th now with the potential to go charging after Hog Rider. Still a lot of laps left to go. Remember, Mango on controller is going to be continuing to deal with more and more tire wear. Again, a big lockup there visually. I think Mango doing a nice job at doing some smart defensive work here. He's okay he's slow in the right spots to defend. Necessarily he's doesn't have to be super quick through the hairpin. Though this lap round, B-Tom gonna be rather close. Jumping on board, both drivers about equal on ERS. So will DRS be the difference here? Lurkin, meanwhile, is closed up as well. He's within 4/10. Another big lockup there for Mango as he works through that final chicane. This time it's a good exit from B-Tom, but the gap's still at about 4/10. But will the cleaner exit from B-Tom prove to be the difference maker? Down to 3.5/10. Down under 3, 2.5, 2. But again, Mango just still managing to keep the drivers behind at bay, as a couple of drivers able to hold on here. A couple of 3-second time penalties being given out. We'll stick with this lead fight. As again, you can see red lights flash on the back of those cars. Any 4 of these drivers in with a realistic shot of winning this race. This one, similarly to how we saw in Silverstone, with a 2-driver showdown in changeable conditions, this one should also very much come down to the wire here. It's just going to be a matter of who is going to be able to make that last move stick. Solo now as well. 3-second time penalty for track limits, picking that up through the Degners. It's going to be a pretty tight battle as well for the remaining points, or for the remainder of the point scoring positions, as there'll be 4 laps to go this time round. 3/10 the gap behind, quarter of a second. This is about the closest we've seen B-Tom B as we head into this final chicane. And again, a little bit into the back of Mango as well. So that'll be work to Mango's advantage. As Mango, I think, just trying to hold on to those tires and, having to back it down that little bit more, put B-Tom off. Now it's going to be side by side behind for P2. B-Tom having to defend. He'll hold Lurka at bay. Lurka trying to sneak it back up the inside in the second part of that opening corner, but unable to get it done. Again, I think that's where you're seeing some of the difference, because we saw Mango defending from Lurka in the opening laps, where it looked like Lurka wanted to carry a lot more speed through that chicane. Because, again, seeing that it's a different driver pairing this time. Instead of Mango and Lurka, it's Mango and B-Tom. But we saw that a lot in the opening stint, where Mango was content to just, okay, hey, I can take this corner. I'm not going to take this, necessarily park it on this corner. try and force an incident behind. But I'm going to take this corner at my pace and, again, just focus on that exit. Make sure that I'm nailing that exit every single time, because that's how you can defend your position super well here at Suzuka. And that's been the difference so far. And so now that gap's going to open up to 6/10, and that's going to perhaps, so we'll have to see, is that tactic, is that technique going to potentially put off B-Tom from continuing to attack? Or will it re-embolden him to continue to throw attacks at this circuit? As it will be 3 laps left to go now, and it's a much better exit from B-Tom. Again, about half a second now. Gap again closing in. Mango continuing to take that kind of slight defensive preparatory line on the exit of the final corner. Going to go a little bit wide. B-Tom keeps it very tight and tidy. Tries to potentially catch Mango napping, but unable to get it done. Still the Ferrari holding the Racing Bull at bay. Meanwhile, through the rest of the field, Matt T has just kind of pulled away here from Jordan, as Jordan BXT Soa continuing to go at it. Of course, there is the ghosted and lapped down Zezin Domar. So blue flags should not prove to be a factor in the rest of this race. Big lock up there from Mango, though, into the hairpin. So we'll see if that proves to be a factor over the remainder of this race. 3/10 is the gap, though. So B-Tom, I think as these tires get more and more worn, we're going to see more and more of this, where B-Tom's just going to have that better grip to be able to close in. Mango, big wiggle there, somehow gathers it up. That's going to really impact the rest of the run all the way back down to turn 1, because it's from Spoon that you really have to try to start to set up overtakes into turn number 1. 3/10 is the gap as we make our way into the braking zone here. Again, another big lock-up for Mango. B-Tom right underneath his rear wing, and it's a good exit this time from B-Tom, who's within 3/10. Mango, tons of wiggles here as we start lap number 26. Again, I think lag potentially playing a little bit of a factor as well, but Mango will continue to hold on. 2 laps to go now. As definitely a little bit of rubber banding from Mango, making the job that little bit harder for B-Tom. Again, do what we can to make sure that connections are as stable as possible. But sometimes even still, EA will strike. 2 laps left to go now. And again, it's Mango and B-Tom battling away from the lead. Lurka and Nemi waiting in the wings should anything happen to the drivers in front of them. Into the hairpin for the penultimate time. And it's really only one overtaking opportunity left. And it's not the greatest exit there from B-Tom. As that gap opens up slightly, again, it just opens the door for Lurka to potentially have a move. It opens the door for Mango to just try and get that little bit extra time that he needs to hold on. And now here comes the time to make your decisions. Going to be 1 lap left to go this time round, and really only one good overtaking opportunity remaining on this circuit. And you got Lurka trying to hover there in B-Tom's mirrors, trying to put the Racing Bulls driver off. Who's going to get the better exit here? Final lap of this race, and it's a good exit from Mango. Got about half a second now. How much does B-Tom have in the tank to potentially dump into this charge, into turn 1? It doesn't look like it'll be enough, and it will not. So Mango holds off into turn number 1, but still, so much of this lap left to go. Still has to be just about perfect to keep B-Tom away. You cannot open the door whatsoever, because B-Tom knows just how to take advantage of that. But they're through the opening 7 corners rather comfortably. Next challenge here is going to be the Degners and then the hairpin. Final lap here in Suzuka. Mango has continued to hold off the charging Lurka in the first stint, the charging B-Tom in the second stint. Into the braking zone now, into the hairpin. Again, a bit of a lockup that's going to allow B-Tom to just close up that little bit, but this exit's going to be where it's really important. So it's going to come down to now how much energy is left in the tank. Bit of a wiggle there from Mango as we get up over the crest, but gathers it up. Very close now, and it's going to through Spoon. Mango is disconnected! Mango disconnects with 1 braking zone left to go. on lap 27. It's going to be a bunch of drivers battling at it. Nemi going to go try to get past Lurka at the final corner. Nemi with a brilliant move to get it done, but it'll be B-Tom who wins in Japan. It's Nemi in second. It's Lurka in third. Mango will still come home to claim fourth. But an all but perfect race, just on the internet, unable to hold off for 30 more seconds. And so Mango drops to fourth. It's going to be Mac T in fifth, followed by Jordan, Vanzantino, Hog Rider, BXT, and Solo will round out your top 10. But B-Tom picks up the win by the slimmest of margins. And certainly when I was saying don't open the door, that isn't what I expected to happen. But that is some of the worst luck that I think I've ever seen. Like that is unreal. Yeah, that's unreal. Kendricks is still making his way around the circuit. Lurka has disconnected. Of course, Kendrick's still making his way around. Let us take a look as well at some of the position changes. Get an early guess at driver of the day. It'll probably be Jordan or Vanzantino for this one. But yeah, I mean, I think there's next to no words for exactly how that went down, other than an absolute shock. But it will be B-Tom still walking away with full points. But yeah, I don't think I have any words. But it will be but again, B-Tom wins once again. Certainly great from Nemi as well to walk away with P2. Picks up driver of the day as well with that move at the end. Fast lap as well goes to Hog Rider. But there is your look at the ending points results. Definitely 13 points net for Mango with the pole position. Certainly not a bad look. But yeah, I mean, there's not much to say at the end of that one, except for sometimes that's just sim racing. But hopefully you did enjoy it. It was definitely a very eventful Japanese Grand Prix. And of course, definitely tune in tomorrow for groups 2 and 3 as they take to this circuit. And until next time, of course, next week as well, I believe, what is next week? Next week for Group 1, we do head to Qatar. So another high-speed circuit, and the circuit where it's challenging to overtake. But again, should hopefully produce some very interesting action. But until next time, I've been Vacant Haddock. Hopefully you've enjoyed, and we will see you later. Have a good one.